So today you have exercise 218, but you also received your assignment 205, which is your final for the class. And a few of you thought I was off my rocker by giving you the final this early, but I promise you I'm not. And that is because we can spend a bunch of time learning to do high quality renderings at the end of the semester on your final project, or I can make you do another project and put a bunch of work into that and then have to do the final project. And to me, it makes a lot more sense for you to put a lot of time into one good final quality project, and we'll be using that over the course of the next 2 months to learn a bunch of techniques about rendering. And so I'd rather have you to start on the final project, push the boundaries of what the final project can do so that you have good quality stuff to render, right, as opposed to just making stuff up on the fly. So because of that, while it's only a little over halfway through the class, I'm going to give you 2 days in a row, today and Wednesday, to work on your final project. And that seems like really counterintuitive, but if you spend your time now and work hard on your modeling, the later work will become easier. If you slack off and you leave class early and don't really work on it and work on other things, you will have to do this work at some point, I promise you. So it's better if you do it now. It will make all of your process along the way, especially when you do your final renderings, that much easier. We will work today in class on just the building itself, and then on Wednesday we're going to work on taking your building and putting it actually into a site, which is important.
I have 4 or 5 students ready to print, so I just installed it on a local computer next door. We will not be in here today.
Okay, that's fine. So after today's modeling, the site integration on Wednesday, a week from today, you could theoretically do your first final rendering for the end of the class as part of your final project. In practice, that will never be your final rendering because you're going to evolve and things are going to change and they'll get better and you'll end up re-rendering it anyway. But that's the trajectory of where we're going. We will, however, have an assignment 204, even though it's out of order. That's just a regular assignment. That will deal with lighting, and we're going to create a light fixture and install that light fixture, and you'll learn the process of lighting and that sort of thing. So yes, right now we're starting with the geometry. We'll do some daytime renderings. As part of this, you will do some night renderings. We'll learn a lot about lighting in V-Ray and how to set up artificial lighting and that sort of thing. And you'll be working on your final project the whole time we're doing this, which I think is important and part of how you get really high-end, good quality final renderings at the end of the semester. Okay? Obviously, some of these have Photoshop coupled with them, but almost all of you took 135. Therefore, you have Photoshop skills to begin with, so there's no harm in using a little Photoshop. So these were supposed to be bound together. These are previous semester's work. One of them is bound the way it's supposed to be. This one is. From the fall of 2014. They're all supposed to be bound together. But I bring these back in so that you guys can look at what previous semesters, and I'm picking these completely at random, what previous semesters' renderings have looked like. Okay? Generally speaking, every year the renderings get better. The computers are better. The network render is better. So the quality of renderings gets higher. But I have all of these, and I brought these in today. Try to keep them grouped if you can. I need to go have them bound. But you can see what people have done in the past, and you're more than welcome to look at those as part of it. So today I'm not going to be long-winded. Basically what you're doing is starting your modeling of your building itself. But I do want to talk about what it is that you're modeling in the first place. And so I have under your assignment 205 a brief introduction of what this is. I try not to give you too specific about what you're required to model, but I do have some parameters that you have to stick within. Number one, there are 2 sites that you can pick from, and I'll show you both sites in just a second on the computer. One is up in the mountains by Lake Tahoe. The other is on the coast by Point Reyes. Both of those sites I selected for specific reasons, and you'll find that they're very loaded in terms of what you can do and what you can create on those sites. Both sites are not accessible via road, so the idea is that you would hike to this location and have a nice little place that was very remote. You're going to be designing this for an artist. The definition of an artist is purposely loose, so you can pick any artist that you think would be interesting to design for. That artist could be anyone from yourself all the way through some, a Richard Serra, and you do a big Corten steel building or something. So you have a lot of flexibility in terms of who you pick. It can, and part of the reason you guys are all at different places, some of you need something for a portfolio and you want a really good project. So if you pick a good artist and you do a design for that particular artist, it can be a project in your portfolio. Some of you just want to learn how to render, in which case you could design something for yourself and you could render that thing for yourself and it would work out fine just to learn the process of rendering. So I leave this open-ended. You can take this as far as you want, depending on what your end outcome needs to be. And you have to decide what that is. There is a square footage limit on this particular building. I'm looking for about 500 square feet, so it is very, very small. Okay? I tend to be a little bit loose with outdoor space, so you can have more than 500 square feet if it's uncovered outside space, or maybe slightly covered or open to the elements space. But if in terms of indoor space, it needs to be really inside. I have some suggestions for rooms that you might want to include that include a sleeping space, a cooking space, maybe a bathroom, a meditation space, or a studio. Any of those kinds of things might be beneficial. These are all things that are challenging to model and or render long term, which is the point. Okay? We can assume for right now that budget is not an issue, so you can use whatever you want. You can also assume that you have access to a very large helicopter that can bring in any materials that you want without a road. Okay? You can have somewhere off-site, there's some solar panels to generate electricity because we're going to be doing renderings that have lighting in them, and we'll just assume that they come in not overhead but underground. So you have underground utilities available at the site as well. So yes, those are a bit of a fantasy, but such is what we're trying to do here. Let's see if there's anything else. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the site. Oh, let's talk about what you have to have at the end of the semester. So every drawing and or rendering that is required needs to be printed on a separate 11 by 17 inch sheet of paper. Okay, so I don't want anything combined together. Some people have elected to include little bits of text on the bottom. I'm okay with that, but no fancy layouts, nothing in InDesign, no portfolio pages or anything like that. I just want the images, and that's to keep it simple for the people that haven't taken 135. There's no outside requirement other than it fits on an 11 by 17 page. It has to be on 11 by 17, and it has to be in color. Okay? At the end of the semester, which is the 12th of December, it's a little earlier than normal, that's Monday the 12th, we will have, starting at 10:30, an exhibition of your work. It's not a formal review, but we put it up on the wall. You guys get to eat donuts. Life is great, right? So you will also have to post all of your work to the course website before that as well, and class is officially over at 12:30. That means that if you turn in something after 12:30, it doesn't count. Okay? So it has to be done. Your comments have to be done, all of that stuff by 12:30 that day, which is the 12th of December. Okay, so what do you have to have as part of your final package for this project? You need 4 renderings. Many people include more than 4 renderings, and there's absolutely no outside limit but a minimum of 4 renderings. Those 4 renderings need to be a daytime exterior rendering, a daytime interior rendering, and nighttime exterior rendering, and a nighttime interior rendering. Okay, so those are the 4 renderings. Then you also need to include, and I want to make sure I get this right, 1 plan and 1 section drawing. Those are meant to be line drawings with a little bit of a clay rendering behind or something like that. I will show you how to do that whole part of it when we get there. Okay? But it's more than just the 4 renderings. It used to be the 4 renderings. Now I'm including line drawings as part of it because I think it's a skill you really need to have. If you ask the people in 220 if it's a skill you need to have, they will agree with you. Okay? So that's kind of the final in a nutshell. If you have specific questions about the program or whatever, I'm happy to answer it, but I wanted to get through kind of that overview. Remember, however much you model over the next 2 days will save you lots and lots of time. I won't give you big open days to model again, so this is critical that you really start to work at it. So let's talk about the sites. On the Assignment 205 page on the Digital Tools website, there is a zip file with site information. Okay, I've gone ahead and I've already downloaded it, and I have it open. And inside of that, there are 2 KML files, which are Google Earth files, that will take you to the building sites. So I'm going to start with building site 1, and we'll let... Yep. Close this. All right. So the first site here is a site up near Lake Tahoe. And so if you're familiar with Lake Tahoe at all, this is South Shore down here. The casinos at State Line and stuff are right here as part of South Shore. This is up on a shoulder of a mountain here called Mount Talac that looks out toward Lake Tahoe. Nice view. Okay. The building site itself is right on this shoulder. I gave you a nice little rock outcropping that you can work with. I'm rather loose with the site. If you want to be back in here, that's okay with me as well. It's kind of a flat plateau on top here, and it goes into a steep bowl down that front side. Anywhere in this general region is perfectly fine with me. Okay. As with lots of the Google Earth stuff, there are a variety of images. Hopefully I can click on one of them. Oh, come on. That you can see examples. That's actually looking back the other direction. See if we can see any other ones. Yeah, these are looking back the other direction. Of course not, right? Well, here, we'll jump up here a little bit higher, and you can see. That's the mountain. Oops. The shoulder that we're working on is over to one side. You're working right over in here. And let's go back to Google Earth. It really does not want to let me pick any of these. And of course, it won't load for me, right? Such is life. There we go. Now we're looking out kind of toward Tahoe, etc. Anyway, you get the idea. Spend some time, look at the pictures, and you can learn a fair amount from it. Actually, there was just a fire right in here last weekend. Anyway, so this is your building site. You can kind of see out to Lake Tahoe, etc. You can look across Fallen Leaf Lake here, and you'll be working in that general context. Okay. The prevailing winds, if it's winter, the winds are coming from the north to the south, up canyon. The winds tend to come down canyon from the south in the summer. Your lighting conditions, because you're in mountainous terrain, your sunrise is coming up from over here. You're getting light early in the day. As you get further and later in the day, this crystal range here blocks a lot of your light, so you're not going to get the strong sunset view that you would, say, on the coast. But you want to be aware of that. North, you're looking roughly north, so windows on that side aren't going to get direct sun. Windows on the south side here are going to get direct sun, and you can work from there as well. All right, so let's look at Site 2. And it's generally kind of a mixed bag in terms of which site you pick. So Site 2, we jump over to the coast. And why we have black and white images there, I'm not quite sure. This is the Point Reyes Peninsula. This is where you're used to Point Reyes, kind of out there. But we're at the opposite end, up near Tomales Bay. Right, Tomales Bay is right in here. And so we're right out here at the end. And you can see a bunch of example images here of kind of what we're looking at. Let's see if I can pick some more. Oh, come on. There we go. So this is right at the very tip. You have a great view. Again, you're looking north. There's a reason that I picked the two sites looking roughly the same direction. So our solar orientations are the same on either site. In this, though, you're going to get a little bit later sunrise, but you're going to get the full sunset, assuming there wasn't fog out on the ocean. You have your traditional offshore winds that come in during the day. And if you've ever been to the coast, you kind of have an understanding of what it looks like. And see if I can get any other. Back. Let's see. I really don't understand why we are so. That's misplaced. Yeah, there you go. So you're really very much on a cliff as part of this. See if we're looking back at it. There you go. Okay. So traditional Northern California coast setting. Like that. Okay. So you're welcome to choose either place. It's entirely up to you. Again, you have access to a helicopter. You can bring materials in, etc. So you don't have to be worried about what materials you're picking. It's useful to look at the sites and to have an understanding of what the topography looks like. Obviously, if you're going to integrate your building into the site, it feels better if it's clinging onto the side rather than cutting a flat spot. But next class, we'll talk about how do you take your building and make it fit into the site and where to make it fit into the site and that sort of thing. So the modeling session today is very much just about the building itself, not about the surrounding site. And then we'll work next class to try to figure out where to bring it into the site, etc. Are there any questions about this? No? Okay. So work hard today, create a nice building, start that process, and then we'll work with the site. Obviously, materials are important, so layers are important. Start organizing your file as you go through this process. And we'll talk about that more next class when we start to bring it in as a block. All right?